And as you can see the topic, what we are causing, and we are at the midst of a situation where we already know that the critical issues and the critical dialogues that are happening around us, and we are at a fair which I think needs to deal about the urgency of the situation. So let's first have the presentation from the panelists, and we can have discussion further.
Thank you, Nobina. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Rida Gatphoh. I would just like to share, since we have a lot of, four of us here, and have a lot to share with what our journey so far. So I'll just go through this presentation that I have prepared. Nurture Nature. This is the title of work that I do. The reason for this may become clear hopefully by the end of this presentation. So on this topic, what are we causing? The question takes me back to the beginning of my journey more than 10 years ago. I lived and worked in Mumbai where I could really see what as humans causing to the planet. I was feeling troubled, and so would anyone who's willing to take a step back to see the scale of damage of what we're causing to our environment. This got me thinking about my future and of our planet. I knew that I had to do something, but I wasn't sure how and where to start the journey. This is a collage of what the city would be and what my village would be, the state of Meghalaya. So, since I wasn't sure where to start, I quit my job in the year 2009, and I moved back to Meghalaya right after that. After spending more than 10 years from my home, I returned back to Meghalaya. This is the place, as you can see behind me, where I left behind in search of a more promising future, but I came back disappointed. It also made me realize what I've lost, especially with my connect to my roots, because as you can see through these images, there is a lot of Meghalaya is blessed with a lot of pristine natural resources and a lot of things which are in abundance through the state. But I also discovered many materials around that we can actually preserve and preserve. So these are all locally materials which are very much close to the environment that I come from. As I traveled across Meghalaya, I also realized that sustainability is already a very core of our tribal system and belief, and not some new concept that we think of today. So, but in contrast to what I noticed, how our sacred land can be abused when the approach is unsustainable. Because the photo at the back, you can see that there's a lot of mining issues in Meghalaya where we can see a lot of destruction to surrounding. So it has actually caused a lot of damage to the livelihood of people. So for me, I realized that the key to better future lies in the past. So I started working with the local artisans to revive some of the dying crafts and traditions. So this is a village called Waken. I landed in this village in 2013, and I started connecting with the locals over there. It's a place where they still practice the traditional belief in terms of sound. It's very different from the Western classical or the Hindustani. But their music is a way of life. They also express every activity through sound. So it was very interesting for me to learn. And we formed a band in 2013, and the journey was inspiring because through this ecological project that we formed, we were able to express and come up with an album. This is some of the artwork because every song that has been written in this is part of the project that we work because we've seen a lot of the trouble that we face and also hope. So it's both about the trouble and also the hope for the future. And for me to connect with these people in remote areas, it was a lot of fun learning because to get into the traditional knowledge system, you have to be like one of them. So I spent more than 6-7 years with these communities across Meghalaya, traveled and collaborated with them. It was a very challenging journey because obviously these are very remote places where you need to really spend time and also adapt to that space. So learning is one thing that I got back in return, and also since I'm a designer, I thought maybe there's something that I give back to the society and also to the place where I come from. So we started this training and workshop with these villages because I feel like most of these crafts are slowly dying. These practices are no longer a need for these communities because there was no value for it. So we kind of spent a lot of time in thinking of the solutions because there were many problems in these practices. So the main idea was to encourage them to create using the traditional methods and also using the organic, locally available material around that area. So over the years we collaborated and we set up the space in Riboy district. This is a studio where we wanted to also promote, also train and have a better space to be able to grow the material and also do much needed research and development. So this is a place in Riboy district where we grow our own raw materials like bamboo. We have many other materials also that would help in getting various colors where we are exploring currently. We do conduct these workshops with these communities, so we do a lot of exchange and interaction. So to market these products, we created this social enterprise called Dak Ti, which means the impressions of the hand. It also means to work with the hand and also to protect the hand. What we are causing depends on what we are creating actually. So food is also a part of what we are trying to create because we need to regenerate the soil in that area. So it was a lot of learning for me over the years. And also I wanted to make sure that anything and everything we create has a positive impact to the society and the environment. We got into a lot of research and design intervention where we came up with these products, and also we created a few more collaboration with various artists from Meghalaya, where we have the combination of art, food, music, and the culture. While it is important to be conscious about what we create and express, it is equally important to create a meaningful platform to experience for artists and also the audience to engage. So over the years now, 10 years, to keep it short, we've come up with this event which is called Winter Tales. It is green festivals which happen in the month of December. This year we had, in 2022, we had the 3rd edition. And this is a festival where we curate and got a lot of people to promote the local and also indigenous crafts and community. Just have a short video to just show you the highlights of the festival. And also we are curating the store which is here in New Delhi. It's called the Meghalian Age, the store. The store is unique because it is also a platform where we follow the homegrown, hand-picked and handcrafts from Meghalaya, and we tell stories. Each of these products is specially curated because we want to also make people believe in what they do. So just to video of the store, and we have events every month, and we get artisans from Meghalaya to come and share and demonstrate. We also curate food pop-ups and also various other activities related with the arts and craft. So yeah, that is just a very short presentation of what I do in a very brief manner. And thank you, and I'm very glad that India Art Fair is taking this initiative to got us here for this talk. And thank you very much. I just wanted to know that.
Rida, thank you. We'll get back to you for this. So we'll be seeing through everyone's work and then we'll get into the discussion.
Where would we go once all of this outside of the natural atmosphere is long? I feel that rather than resorting to shock and sensationalism, if we can find a way to tell the stories of you and me, there is a possibility that the viewers might be able to connect to it. As an artist or a storyteller, I want to steer away from that path. So in my story, all you get to see is people are trapped indoors, living their lives in many different ways that they could afford to, or they might be living in the coming future. It has taken me about 5 years to find a way to completing the series. This is the first part of a trilogy that I wish to work on. Rather than reacting to what it is today, I am making a futuristic speculation. So the entire series is kind of set in the near or the distant future. The majority of plants and the animals, floating and fallen species will vanish because the climate will become unsustainable and completely unbearable. Essentially, I'm just trying to find a way to tell the story of our survival in the hope that I can get the viewer to stop, to pause, to take a closer look, to think as to what's happening and why is it happening, question their position in the future, and hopefully through the process of engaging with the images, which I hope would raise questions for the viewer, I hope that they go back to finding the answers. This man who is perhaps in his 50s, surrounded by plants, an oxygen mask, an oxygen tank, is sitting in his living room staring into the television. He is wearing a yellow gum boot, his feet dipped in an inflatable pool. The pool is in the shape of a whale, and I'm using some of these motifs as suggestive elements, as metaphors to allude towards that longing and the desire for connect with nature. You can see that loneliness, the golden, the coldness in his face. What is the reason? Why would someone bring in ice slabs into a room? The answer raises the question. There's a Muslim family, a mother and son who are praying. There is the story of the beekeeper. Rather than showing that destruction, that apocalypse, I'm just showing people in their houses, them wanting to reach out to different elements of nature, wanting to touch one another. That is essentially what analytical ecology has been.
Dharmendra, would you like to say something? Yes.
Nothing. So I just continue with the conversation later. I just want to give an insight into the way I'm looking at how to tackle the climate crisis. Not just we have to.
So Dharmendra, would you like to?
In today's time, men are preferring to stay quiet. Come on.
Fields are the bodies with burden. Fields are deteriorating as soil as well as atmosphere. Fields turn as the site of industrial experimentation. A plow in the field destroys the habitation as well as constructs the human kitchen. A field becomes kitchen just before moving into the complex stomachs. A field is the site where crops grows and dies together. Field is the architecture as well as the battlefield between various living organisms. A field is the mute evidence of blood and flood. I was born in between stories, discrimination, hierarchies, chaos and silence, full of winds and dust without any address. I practiced between the plains of Ganga to the villages, water bodies and rainforests of northeast India. Through the medium of need, time, toil and soil, my practice gets cultivated and cleaned up in the form of installations, videos, painting, photography, events, travelogue and beyond. I harvest imaginations, memories, time, change and beliefs that are stored as residues in the backyard of life's goal. In the context of turbulent times, where grief becomes a powerful force of collective experience of community, therefore, it is crucial to harvest slowness and energies of materials to cultivate the social structures. Penny stores and folders as materials are the extension of hunger, land conflict, caste hierarchies, environmental uncertainties, economy, age, and human warmth.
is basically a kind of introduction where my practice resides.
So I think we've got 3 beautiful partners who've spoken, and the next person would be me myself as the speaker moderator, who will be talking about a totally different space. I come from Kolkata, and this is a space known as East Kolkata Wetlands, which is at the periphery of Kolkata. I don't know how many of you have gone to Kolkata. Can we have raise your hands? How many of you have gone to Kolkata? And how many of you all have visited the wetlands? I can see 2 of them. So next time, this is an important place that you need to visit. The reason is, it is one of the largest village-fed wetlands of the world. It is a unique example of organic waste management. It is not just a wetland, but it also helps in circular economy. All the Bengalis love fishes, so all the fishes, most of them come from these wetlands. And the community there, with their practices, they manage the waste, as well as the huge biodiversity that you have, the habitat, the species that exist there. It's wonderful to see the space yourself. But what's happening to the space? Every day one wetland is being encroached. And this growing encroachment, the illegal dumping, is the rising crisis that is happening to the space. And I think it's happening to all the spaces, these ecological heritage spaces. And what are we doing? We react to it when there's a catastrophe, when there's some disastrous action that happens. But otherwise, we are all silent. So our work has been in these wetlands, and we work at the intersection of art, ecology, and pedagogy. And there have been various projects that we do, but I'm going to talk about a few of them. So the basic thing that we really highlight in our projects is the collaboration with the community children. They are our researchers, they are the journalists, they are the documenters, they are the archivists. So they are the ones who are the ones on the front line in a way. So this nature journal or nature research that they do, we invite a lot of experts from various ends, from various organizations, to come and help them to really show and share their insight into the wetlands. And all these beautiful drawings that these children do, the observations, the details that they do, they're all being recorded together, and we're coming up with different forms of dissemination, because it's important that this is knowledge. We need to change our whole perception of what is knowledge. Do we really understand what is ecology? So the whole idea is, how do we get this knowledge? How do we really need to take out that knowledge and take it somewhere? We really need to make them static archives, or do we really need a living space, a living museum, living archives? And that's what we are looking forward to. So these are girls who've been trained as eco-guides, and we're inviting people to come to the wetlands, to experience it for yourself, and see what this knowledge is about, to really walk through these wetlands and see all these details that exist within the space. What happens is when a girl from the community talks to you about, this is how the plant is, this is the smell of it, these are the seeds that come out of it, and in beautiful designs of it, you hear about the birds, different kinds of songs that they make, they perform for you. They really get a sense of pride, a sense of ownership, a sense of identity, because as you understand, these spaces are not the spaces that are given the kind of acknowledgement they should be given. No one would really, the children would shy away in the beginning to say that, yes, my father is a fisherman, or my mother is a rugby. But we're trying to find out innovative modes of dissemination, innovative modes of communication, and art is a wonderful way of doing it, because somehow it triggers your imagination. It brings in so much more than just the data, the field recordings, or the kind of scientific research that's been done in these spaces. And we also curate a lot of interactive spaces, because when the community themselves come and displays their work in spaces like this, and they have a platform to speak and tell you the stories directly from their ends, and share all this knowledge, all that they have in their everyday practice, which is excellent examples of sustainable living. We always look for this. We talk about so much of these terms and jargons, but do we really understand what are these, how we really could incorporate them in our everyday life? And so these are different kinds of spaces which the children and the community have been inhabiting, and people from various ends have come and participated in these interactions. The other thing we realized that somewhere we all have to work together, because it is not, this is one planet, and whatever happens to us, the crisis is not going to be affecting only one person, it's going to affect all of us. We are interconnected. This kind of symbiotic relationship we have with each other, with every organism that exists around us, is important that we come together. And that is how we really understand that these kind of spaces which are important to have kind of organic materials, the organic interactions with the community, and somehow all these fairs, events have to change. We also need to work together to bring this dialogue of global polycrisis, because polycrisis is something like multi-organ failure, which has to be attended from different ends. So with that, I would end my presentation, and this is all that we have been doing in all these years. We would say that conservation is our collective responsibility, and here today we are to talk about that and how we can take this dialogue further from here. So here I would invite all the panelists to, do we get back to the first slide? So what I would say is it's wonderful to have a panel, group of panelists who've been so active on ground, and somewhere this kind of ecological degradation is what has brought us to this point where we are all working together for the to see how this intersection of art, environment, and sustainability could be worked out. So I have 2 questions for all of you to respond to. So please feel free if you would like to. The audience is also free to really come up with any other further solutions you would like to add on to our questions. So as art practitioners, each of the panelists, as we have seen, has very individual methods and mediums to engage with their surroundings and to address the ecological degradation and crisis we are encountering. With regard to sustainable practice and sustainable action, which is, of course, you understand, is deeply complex, and it is a delicate matter to practice also. It's often one wonders and spoke what is within one's capability to achieve, because you can do a lot of things, but what is that you would really like to achieve? I would like each of the speakers to reflect on how do they see their work in this perspective. How do you decide on the scale and impact it creates? How does your work really create impact? So would you like to start with?
Thank you, Nobina. The question is the impact and the practices. As to my presentation, I feel like when we started, I didn't really know what I was doing. And after 10 years, when I look back, I could actually see a lot of change, because when I went back, I spent a lot of time in these villages because we were conducting workshops, because I was teaching, and at the same time we had to do some documentation. I felt like we were kind of have a lot of problems and difficulty in getting anything out, because in Meghalaya we don't really have anything scripted. It's mostly oral traditions, and when you talk about a certain crafts, you don't really know the history, and it just eventually disappears. Be it music, or be it the craft, or the practice, even religion for that matter, our beliefs, the system. So looking back, because over the years I feel like going to these communities, understanding them, applying certain methods and techniques to kind of collaborate, because we wanted to create an impact so that it doesn't die. Like pottery is one thing that I worked in Hills. When we first went there were just these 2 ladies who still wants to continue with the craft. Because most of their children had gone to school and they didn't know whether what their mothers or grandparents had done would really be meaningful in the future. So they thought they should get out of the village and get a job somewhere. So, but looking at the problems in our state, we have a lot of issues with the education or the system itself. So for me, I thought that what these women was practicing was, I could see there's a lot of impact that can create because it's something very unique to that area. It's very much related to their identity, the practices, keeping everything in mind. So we started encouraging the younger generation also because we started taking these ladies also out and showing them to the world and getting them sometimes to Delhi. Right from 2014, we demonstrate in schools. We've got them in various cultural platforms to share their knowledge because it's very unique. So a lot of interest came up and eventually the recognition over the time. It was slow, but it took a long journey for it to travel, but I see an impact today because in that pottery village, there are more than 30 potters now, and they've made it like a full-time activity because it's well appreciated, the value has been added, and I feel the practice will continue. So I feel one is that, and accordingly with the curation that we've been doing, because we work also with promoting tourism in Meghalaya, we implement certain projects. So based on that, we saw that through these storytelling, through bringing in the arts community, the crafts community, even food for that matter. Because when you come to Meghalaya, people think that we eat Chinese food. But frankly, in Shillong, when you go to people's house, nobody really eats the traditional food. We're very much influenced. So I could see things will change now. There's a lot of appreciation to the traditions. And I hope that with time also it will grow. If you are in Delhi to visit the store, you'll get to know more. Thank you.
So that's maybe open invitation to all of us to go there. So I'll ask Sharbendu to reflect on this if you want to speak on
the impact of my work. Couple of things. In the interest of time, let me be as succinct as I can be. It's none. It's very self-indulgent of us as artists to say my work makes an impact. We hope it makes an impact, but in a very postmodern, post-truth era we get. Number one. Number two, we as individual artists, we create something in the hope that this work gets appropriated across different contexts. But the artist today is expected to market, promote, disseminate his or her own work, which is not going to happen. So to tackle this ecological crisis, as artists we can make our individual responses, but we need other players and gatekeepers from the art world, the advertising industry and other ecosystems to start listening to us, to start taking up our work and reappropriating them in different contexts. Now, for example, as an anecdote, analogy for ecology that I made in the hope that it's going to make the audience stop and think that what kind of future will we be arriving at. But if it remains closed and trapped within the white deep spaces, then it doesn't work. It can work for me. I might feel good, my gallery might feel good, my friends might feel good, but does it make it dent? No, it does not. We've been complicit for far too long. The art world has been complicit for far too long. Most of us living in the cities have been complicit for far too long. We are in the middle of a deep ecological crisis. The sixth extinction has already started. We are losing at least 200 species every single day, which means the web is getting broken, and it means there's going to be a big food crisis. There's going to be all sorts of crises. But talking about crisis doesn't help, because the audience feels only hopeless. We feel hopeless, and it's so big a problem that we're like, let's dig our head and let's not acknowledge the problem. We'll have to find a solution. So, again, going back to what you asked, does it make a dent? No, it doesn't.
Yeah, in my practice, I conceived a Harvard School in 2019 in Bihar. And hello? Yeah. So, talking about my practice and its impact. So when I was in the art school, after graduating from the art school, I straight went to the village because there was some kind of impact made by the situation, and that's why I landed in the village. I started having like travels and dialogues with different people and different occupational situations and farmers, fishermen, craftsmen. And after almost 3 to 4 years of engagement, um, I conceived a project called Harvest School, which is basically functions in the format of a workshop and very informal workshop method, and it basically engages multiple groups, children and old people in the context of Bihar. And what that particular school is making an impact is something that I have not listed it out, and the impact is not something that is one way kind of thing. And so the project basically works around the idea of slowness and beat. And this whole idea of slowness, because in the disciplinary context, like in the main pedagogy, the concept that knowledge is power is something that is so problematic. So in pre-disciplinary context, the knowledge is always a way of living, and in the post-disciplinary situation, the knowledge can be empathic. So these are the basically goals, but as Sharbendu is like saying, maybe like we are just a kind of individual, isolated and working towards a different kind of like with limited resources. So it's not an easy thing for us to create such kind of like situations which can be impactful. So in my practice also, the impact is absolutely none, and whatever impact has been coming out, it is basically that I learn a lot from the field, from the farmers and from craft people, and the way they engage with the materials, the way they have the patience towards different kind of material. So there is a different kind of impact which makes me more sensitive towards the land and the trees and other kind of like ecological happenings. So pedagogy plays a very important role in that, and what kind of pedagogy we are practicing. So ecological degradation is basically one of the most the outcome of the mainstream extractive pedagogy that we are practicing in our institutions. So I think that we need to devise a kind of more cared pedagogy by taking different kind of initiation and redefine our structure, their functions, and also rethink about the goal of the knowledge. I think
Yeah, I think thank you. It's wonderful to have panelists who have such intense work, and we're running out of time. But still, I'll take in one little question, because we're talking about what we are causing, and in the midst of this India Art Fair, which is a junction of mass public art engagement. What are the alternatives that you visualize to contribute to the larger conversation about art, environment, and sustainability? We do see a need for change. I don't know how many of you in the audience do see the need for change, but as panelists we've had a discussion, we do see a need for change. For perception, representation, dialogues, discourse, and in ways of doing things. So I will ask each panelist just to highlight a few key points that you would like to bring into this platform. So maybe we'll go the reverse way. Dharmendra, could you reflect on the key points that you would like to bring into this platform, the India Art Fair? Because we really need hope. We can't be talking about crisis.
I think like I will start from the art school thing. In art school, when I was in art school, I was told that a lot of people go through different cities and being artists, and then I was really not interested in that. I directly went to the village, and there lies a different kind of structure, the way people work in the villages with a certain sense of slowness, and a lot of gesture production happens. So in different kind of art structure, we work with a lot of mechanical presence, and this is basically somehow also feeding, and also there is also a sense of hierarchy, and the way spaces are designed and the way we function is something that basically all contributes to the basically the climate conditions that we're facing now. So we have to think on multiple layers, on multiple levels, because ecological climate condition of today is not only about climate. It's also about caste. It's also about the labor. It's also about economy and economical hierarchies and who holds the land, who is a landless farmer. So it's about so many things. Yeah. Thank you.
What can be done to bring in some hope? It's a long list, Nobina, and there is no way we can deal with it.
Yes, of course.
So let's take a couple of capsule things that people from here can do. First, realization that where did this problem come from? In a very simple way, it comes from the severance of man's relationship with nature, which has been the key product of capitalism and colonialism. The severance of ties has brought problems. So, something to do? Alright. Can we all start rekindling our lost relationship with nature? That doesn't mean we go to the mountains, we go to the forest. We need to find ways of rewilding. It's very strategic. There are ample papers that say we have to rewild. Farming alone itself is not enough. Gardening is not enough. We have to rewild. Number two, living in the cities, can we handle our own waste? At least be biodegradable. That will take care of the weekend production. I'm not talking about art, I'm just talking about living. Very simple little things, and yes, statistics and data again say that individuals trying to do something will not make a dent in the larger climate crisis. Fine, it won't. But what it will do, what Dharmendra was talking about, is by slowing down, by becoming more conscious in our way of living and making things a little better on a day-to-day basis. We bring in the concept and element of care in our life. We start caring for one another. We start caring for the little patch of garden or the little patch of earth that's still there, that's still not been cemented. So these little gestures will start to help.
That's great, that we need to really focus on these little things. Before I hand over to Rida, I would like you to focus on the fair, because you have been curating the winter tales, which is also a kind of fair. And we also put the job of this product, which brings in the community together. So, what is your suggestion for India Art Fair? How there could be a way to add value?
Like what, just the question, I would just like to pinpoint, Sharbendu, what you mentioned is about, reduce maybe, and be conscious. So the Winter Tales is again, a very consciously curated festival where we follow, the approach is very holistic and inclusive, because when you look at communities having this kind of a platform, it is something, a way of expression, expressing their thoughts, expressing and how they interact and building that kind of a platform. So with Dak Ti also, our approach has always been looking at sustainability. Sustainability, the entire festival was built on just the local materials. We try to be able to use whatever is around us. We recycle, we also repurpose, rebuild, and doing things which we can recycle, reuse. It's a cycle again with time. So I feel like life is to sacrifice as human. We need to actually do away with the where we consume a lot and try to think whatever the value that we have. That's why our products are very unique, because whoever buys these products, they know that they should last. It's not that you buy now and you can throw it away. We don't have that kind of inventory, or the natures, like you said, it's depleting. So I think sacrifice is one thing that we humans should, and be more inclusive and have a more holistic approach. Winter Tales is also like that. We invite communities from various backgrounds, and we also practice. We do a lot of waste management. We interact and we share a lot of these knowledges which are disappearing. So it's just very encouraging. And, thank you.
I really wish we had lots and lots of time to have this discussion. But here we are. So we really need to think about what we are causing. Somehow this whole idea about waste, which came in from all of us in a way, waste isn't, the place where I work, the wetlands, waste is looked into as a nutrition, not as a pollutant. I think so it's important that we change our perception and we look into our lives as well as our surroundings in a new way. If we really think of individual change, and that little individual step is going to actually add up to the global change or crisis we can ever imagine. So let's all work together for it. That's what I would say.